Hi everyone, my name is Shane Blackwell. I'll be taking you through colour theory today. This was going to be put live on air. If you're not with us now, you can get this recording after the fact on our Keystone College YouTube channel. So I'll put up the link to that at the end of the tutorial. But for now, you should have access to all the files required from logging on to your Arc Resources website and logging in, scrolling down to week 1 and clicking on the Colour Theory Guide PDF. Download that and you should have access to, it should look something like this. Okay, so what we're going to go through today are things like production limits in color when we're using them with the Adobe software, what the additive color system is, what a subtractive color system is, and what that means in relationship to RGB, CMYK, or print versus web. Some basic information regarding color terminology, and most people have already gone through this at some point in their life. So we're talking about primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors. Another very important part of color theory is knowing the structure behind any given color combination or color palette. So I'm going to talk about color harmony, and that regards to complementary colors, analogous, triadic, etc., or any of the variations involved in that color harmony section. Also color and context, so tints, shades, tones, talking about the vocabulary required to justify your design decisions to either design peers, clients, or anyone else who requires more information about your design purpose, your processes, things like that. Also, a very important thing to know is color psychology, how you respond to color or how you intend other people to respond to your color choices in regards to branding, marketing, logo design, web design, whatever it might be, and areas of caution. So we'll get to the point now. So if you'd like to follow through and you do have this particular PDF, that's great. But I've got that in front of me and I will be flicking through just to reference some content. So let's have a quick look at something else. Okay, so we'll start with this one, color theory. All right, so color theory itself is pretty wide, and it's very important to get the basics for the design theory and getting people involved with your design choices. So it's usually the very first thing that everyone either turns on or turns off or responds to your design negatively or positively based on how you've used this particular medium. Okay, so let's just talk about the production limits of web versus print. Now this is all related to a number of possibilities, limitations, and some of those limitations, or at least the whole world of color is limited or grouped in the visible light spectrum, okay, of the electromagnetic spectrum. So somewhere between cosmic rays, X-rays, microwaves, and broadcast and brand waves, we're looking at the visible light spectrum, okay? So that's all visible light, and what we're really seeing is a breakdown of white light being spread apart into red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, etc. Okay, you've obviously seen something like that before, so I'll continue on. Okay, so what we're going to look at is some limitations. So obviously this is a close-up representation of an old CRT or tube-based monitor. And the old TVs were like this. If you got really close, you saw a series of red, green, blue dots together. Okay, and of course, microscopically, as they fire off independently or individually, they give you the illusion of pictures or colours in certain areas of the screen. Same goes with the current LED style monitors. Okay, and of course, print is no exception as well, with the dots involved for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black across different angles and different densities, combined to give you a microscopic overlay to interpret a particular color. Okay, so here we go. So the one on the left is a subtractive color system, and the one on the right is an additive color system. Now, the difference is being one is for RGB and one is for CMYK, so therefore one is for screen and one is for print. Based on the two different types of technology, one being able to show a set amount of colors on screen and one being able to reproduce X amount of colors via printed inks. So by combining red, green, blue light together, you add light to get white light, whereas you're adding to get a light. Whereas if you add colors for a printed output, you're adding colors to take away light, so you end up with a black color. Okay, so that would be magenta, cyan, and yellow, etc. Okay, so here we go. With this lab interpretation of the whole color wheel, if we could say that, and that's this whole shape around the outside, this kind of weird teardrop shape. Internally speaking, we've got two limitations here. For the screen, of course, again, is RGB, and for print is CMYK. The yellow line, of course, represents the RGB colors that are able to be reproduced on any given screen. Okay. Same again with the blue line, represents the amount of colors being able to be reproduced by printing. Okay. So we're severely limited to what is able to be reproduced on any given medium. Okay. So for instance, if we pick one of the colors at the very top of the yellow triangle and we turned out we wanted to print that color, it would come out of the printer nowhere near as vibrant or as bright as what it once originally was. It will shift significantly due to the additive to subtractive conversion. Okay. You can try that out if you like by opening up one of the design programs and selecting an RGB color and then converting the actual document space from RGB to CMYK, and you will see a significant shift on screen anyway. And it will shift again once you actually print that document out as well. Okay, so that's production limits. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to get into some basic color theory, and of course you know this already about color, and we're going to go through obviously primary, secondary, tertiary colors and what that means in regards to choosing and mixing your colors. This becomes kind of second nature as you progress through and you do it often enough if you haven't done it already. So primary colors, obviously red, green, blue. Okay, secondary colors are going to be green, orange, purple, and then tertiary colors are going to be those colors between the secondary colors, each individual secondary color. Okay, so as we step through it, we're going to be looking at other instances in regards to color theory. So let's quickly go through what that means in regards to, say, tints, shades, and things like that. So as we're looking at a color wheel, or we're picking out one particular, let's say it's a hue, and a hue is the name of a color, regardless of whether it's orange, yellow, brown, green, indigo, teal, whatever it might be. The hue is the name of the color. Okay, that's the solid foundation of the color. Once we start saying, okay, we need a tint or a shade, it's simply the amount of white or black in the color. Okay, so what we're looking at in regards to other harmony relationships, we could call that one individual set of colors as monochromatic. As we move across or around the color wheel, that can be reflected as tints in the yellow hue, or tints and shades in the red hue. It doesn't really matter. It's the same principle, the same vocabulary. Same goes for analogous colors. Now, analogous colors share strong undertones with very similar hues that are quite close to each other on the color wheel, whether that's, yellow, red orange, orange, or yellow orange. They're quite similar hues, and that combination can either be moved around the color wheel to green, blue, lime green, yellow green, etc. So you can group that analogous interpretation around the color wheel and move that kind of grouping around as you need. Again, we have complementary, and complementary are usually opposite colors on the color wheel. And in this case, we've got blue opposite orange. You can have green opposite red, purple opposite yellow. Any other combination would be known as a complementary color palette. Okay, we could use the same kind of step, but adding a split on one end, and that is split complementary. By adding more than one color, we're moving to two colors on one end of that particular complementary scale. So that would be, maybe a lime green or a blue opposite a red. Or we can cycle that around the color wheel to interpret various other color schemes or color palettes. Okay. We can also go for primary triadic or secondary triadic or any other variation in between. We can go like a triadic could consist of 3 colors. We could also have a quad, maybe four colors, or a rectangle or a square. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be similar kind of orientations there. Okay, so we're going to talk about what the color wheel is and isn't. This little diagram could be quite confusing, and the definition between them, yes, it's a little bit weird. So we're going to look at lightness, saturation, and hue. Now, first of all, we'll start with hue. Okay, again, as I said before, hue is the name of any set particular individual color. Okay, classified as red, yellow, blue, etc. Orange, teal. Okay, doesn't really matter. That's the actual name of the color. As we look at the lightness, okay, lightness is a property of color or dimension of a color space that is defined by the reflective subject brightness. Okay, so how much lightness, how much brightness is in that particular color? Again, that can also be known as tints and or shades. Okay, so tints and shades, those terms are often incorrectly used, so be careful about what you're doing with them. Don't get tints and shades mixed up with opacity. That would be the wrong move. Okay, particularly when you're overlaying colors underneath, that's opacity. Whereas tints and shades usually result in a solid lightening down or darkening up of a particular hue. Okay. Alright, so the one thing that everyone gets confused with, and that's a common occurrence, is the interpretation of what saturation is. Now, saturation is determined by the combination of light intensity and how much it is distributed across the spectrum of the wavelength. So if we take away the intensity of the hue, we're left with an amount of lightness. So that means it's a value of grey. Now, if someone's looking at two different colors and can't see the amount of saturation in the color, they're only seeing a value of gray, and then they're losing the ability to tell the difference between a contrasting hue combination, and that may interpret it as being maybe colorblind or something like that. So got to be careful about choosing colors with the same saturation value. Try and get as much contrast between the colors as possible within reason, okay, for any particular purpose. Okay, so we'll move on. Okay, again, we're talking about contrast, which we've just done. So this comes down to talking about, okay, is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be calm? Okay, so an exciting color for me is colors chosen with extreme contrast. Okay, so a yellow opposite a dark maroon, or those kind of opposite dark versus light kind of like orientations. Okay, right, so as we move across color theory, and this is going to be relevant to any of your design theory and any of your logo design, web design, whatever it might be, to entice people to interact with your particular project or logo or whatever it might be. You've got to find a place where you are speaking from. Okay, what is your orientation? What is the message that you're trying to convey? If you're misinterpreting the selected color theory, you're going to throw out the wrong message, okay, quite severely, okay, and that determines by, okay, is it going to be an optimistic point of view, friendly, excitement, creative, trust, peaceful, whatever it might be. Those color combinations are going to be directly responsible for giving off a vibe or a feel. Okay, and if you haven't designed or done the research behind what that means, then you're throwing people off track. You're going to cause people a lot of grief, misunderstand your brand, and they won't want to be associated, interact, or just turn off straight away. So be careful about that. So obviously, knowing your own responses to each individual color, that's also fairly important. So, you know, with red, red is exciting, okay, it's energetic, it's passionate, shows love, desire, speed, strength, power. So there's positives, negatives for each color. So knowing how you interpret your own response and understanding that and digesting it and understanding how you can reinterpret that into your design and not so much force your own judgment, but influence people to feel something by persuading them through color theory. It's quite a significant power to have, and one that shouldn't be underestimated. Okay, so depending on what color you're shown, you'll actually react, you know, a completely different way. So as we go through each color, it's up to you to interpret your own feelings for that, and then work that out and interpret it in a way that you can reinvigorate, reignite, combine, and show how to use that in your own work. Okay. Now we're going to go and get into something else as well now, and this is going to be certain areas that you're going to be careful of when you're getting into color theory. Okay, things that you shouldn't do. Obviously, with ecology. Okay, the standard word for that these days is sustainability. Sustainability has a connotation of, you know, friendly, you know, non-destructive, kind of earthy. So those kind of tones need to be shown through that particular meaning. So, you know, browns, greens, blues, maybe some sunlight, you know, oranges, or it's something like that. So each entity, each particular solution requires its own individual set of color. Now that's saying one thing. What you've got to be careful of is when you cross the lines into unknown territory, and we can take colors out of context, and we can say that, okay, when we're looking at blues music, it's not blue music, it's blues music. So color is irrelevant, so we could use it. If we were choosing wisely, we could disregard that rule depending on what we're trying to achieve again, but knowing the restrictions and what we're trying to solve, some of the problems that we're faced with, that's what we're looking at. Okay, we're also faced with certain restrictions through religion. So some religions particularly have a close linking with certain colours, and certain colours represent certain parts of their religion. So best not to get that wrong unless you want to offend quite a number of people. Same goes with some of the natural therapies areas, like the chakra, and you can interpret different colours and different parts of the body for wellness and well-being. So again, knowing what they are and interpreting that for a particular purpose. That might be a client of yours that's coming to you from that particular industry, and you've got to know about how to interpret these colours for that particular purpose. Okay. Same thing goes again for cultures. Each culture has ceremonies and other things that they use colour for. So knowing your history and doing your research and looking at the bigger picture of the world and figuring out what the hell's going on and applying the right solution at the right time, and not just hiding under a shell and not facing up to the reality of it. So that's what I've got to show you for the presentation. But I'm going to show you a couple of other things that might help you out. So what we've got here is the Creative Lab, KeystoneCollege.com.au, and on that particular website, I've designed this up to have some information, some general information about good design practices, managing file types, etc. But also I've got some good things in here that relate back to some of the projects and tasks. Okay, so for instance, color theory task 1. Okay, and this will be the same interpretation or same direction given from week 1, day 1, and understanding what to do with it. So you can either use pencils, paint, you can download maybe GIMP or Inkscape if you don't have the Adobe software. Feel free to download the trial version of the Adobe software with your own personal email. Don't use your Keystone College email, because after census date we are going to issue you with a paid subscription for Adobe services, and that will interfere with our paid subscription. So feel free to use a Hotmail account and download the trial version of maybe Illustrator and maybe have a go at it digitally. That's fine. So that's what I've actually done for this particular task. Let me just go down to YouTube. And show our channel. All right. Okay, I'll throw the description up on the link via the YouTube channel. I'll get that out to you guys anyway. Essentially what we can do, I might just go through that with you now. We can open up Illustrator and interpret this particular task. So we're going to start with a 2 by 3 centimeters set of squares. We can go 7 centimeters, 2 rows of 3 and interpret some way of visually interpreting a verbal problem. So exciting, warm, calm, warm, exciting, cool, and calm, cool, etc. So how would we go about doing that? Okay, so I'm going to open up Illustrator. I've already got this particular document open already. Okay, so I can actually split this up. Object, path, split into grid, and I can actually split this grid vertically by three columns, and if I like, I can come along, I can actually select each individual one. I can grab, obviously, let's start with the primaries. I can go red, yellow, and blue. Let's just start with that. That's not the solution to the puzzle. That's just the primary colors that we're going to start with. Okay. We can go up here to the recolor artwork section. Okay. We can click on edit colors, and straight away we've got a little color wheel. This is going to be similar to a task if you're doing it in task 2. So, okay, so what we can do is it's asking us to make a combination of exciting, warm combinations. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to disregard anything from the cool half of the color wheel. So that means we're not going to use anything from green all the way down to blue violet. So we're going to keep this pretty much on the warm half of the color wheel. Okay, that pretty much does it for me. I mean, you can move it around, you can change some of the darkness or lightness in that. So yeah, it's up to you how you're going to interpret this, but that would be one solution. Doesn't really matter. You could have one or more variation. It doesn't really matter. That's up to you. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go OK. Apply that. Okay. Same thing again. I'm going to do that for the cool, exciting path. Split into grid. Again. Preview 3, turn off the gutter width. Okay, again, you can start with the same color, red, yellow, blue. Okay, again, go up to the recolor artwork section, edit the colors. And again, we're going to go to the cool half of the color wheel this time. So we might go lime green, blue violet. Okay. You can even lighten off the colors if you wish as well. You don't have to go as dark. But notice how I do, like if I do this in certain sections, we're losing a lot of contrast. That might not be a good thing for exciting. Okay. So it's up to you where you see how to loosen up or tighten up some of that contrast. There's a lot of things you can do to vary those color choices. Okay, again, I'm going to choose that. And natural. Now that's going to be a tricky one. Let's go object, path, split into grid. Three. Okay, let's go. Red, yellow, blue. And we're going to go again, select them all, and then we're going to re-edit them. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky because we're not limited to the warm half of the color wheel or the cool half of the color wheel. We're kind of going to do both, but natural cool or natural exciting. Let's say that we might end up being some colors might be darker than others. Some colors might be brown or lighter. Some might be orange. Again, blues, light blue maybe, still natural, because of course, you know, blue, green, probably can go a lot lighter than that. There we go, now we're hitting it. Okay, so we can interpret this as, you know, a fair bit of contrast. Okay, that's getting there. I'm happy with it. Push it around, still natural-ish. Yeah, be careful. Okay, we can probably darken it up, so, or lighten up if you wish. It's up to you. Okay, so that would be exciting natural. Okay, I'm going to disregard this row, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to grab these. I'm going to hold the Alt or Option key and the Shift key at the same time. I'm going to drag and copy. The reason why I've done that, simply by dragging or selecting across all these three, I'm going to grab the Recolor Artwork section. I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to do all at once. Nope, I'm going to make them nice and light. So hopefully if we can do this correctly, I might be able to lighten them right down, make them a pastel version of those exciting colors, and straight away we have a calm version of that particular solution. Doing half the amount of work for twice the amount of solution, so that's good. So that's a reasonable solution to that particular task. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll post this up, and if there's any other questions, just let me know. Okay, thanks.